Management statistics show that the most critical process to project success is risk management. 40% of projects fail due to poor risk management. Today on the show, we are looking at the role of a project manager in managing risks right here on Certification Insights. My name is Bamidele, Vivian Osagie. I will be back right after this break. Welcome back from the short break. This is Certification Insights. My name is Bamidele, Vivian Osagie. So just before the break, I made mention that our topic for discussion today on the show is about the role of a project manager in managing risks. Ladies and gentlemen, make welcome our certified business analyst and certified project manager, Josiah Fidelis. How you doing?
Oh, thank you. I'm doing very well.
Looking sharp.
You too.
What's your secret?
My secret is the same as yours.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're looking good too.
Oh, thank you. Looking good is good business. And you running a very good project is also good for management, wherever you find yourself. And which brings me to the very first question on our topic for today, talking about risks.
Yeah.
So how do you spot a risk and what are risks?
Very interesting question, right? First of all, when we hear the word risk, what comes to mind is what if? What if? What if? Which means that risk has to do with uncertainties. Any outcome that is uncertain, that you cannot 100% predict, right, is a risk. It means you're saying, what if it works? What if it doesn't work? And the challenge we have currently is that most people, when they hear risk, what comes to mind is negative. They just feel that, oh, something bad wants to happen. But that's not always the case. A risk can also be positive. And when a risk is positive, we call it an opportunity, where we say, oh, there's an opportunity ahead for us to jump at. What if I make this money? It's a risk, but it's a positive opportunity, right? And then the negative part of it is what we call a threat, where we're saying, what if I lose all my money in this investment, right? That's also the negative part of it. So a risk can actually be positive or negative, but anytime there's a form of uncertainty, is a risk. If it is certain, then it's not a risk. It's actually a reality or an event. If you're certain that if you jump into the river, you would die, that's not a risk. That's certain. But when there's a probability that, what if I put my money in this investment? What if I get the money, or what if I lose my money? That's a risk. So it could be positive, it could be negative. So anything that has uncertainty is a risk. And then anything that we cannot predict the actual outcome 100% is actually a risk. How we spot it is by knowing if there's uncertainty in it. That's it. Okay, but are there ever cases whereby you have risk-free projects, or maybe you even stumble upon one? Do you just avoid it? Do you run away from it? Though we have various ways of handling risk, which we'll still talk about. But then again, you know, a life without challenge is a challenge. So narrowing it down to the subject matter is saying a life without risk is risky. So we cannot take away risk from that. It's a necessary ingredient, right, to the flavor that it brings to not just life alone, but even to an organization, to a business, right? There's a whole lot of uncertainties in the world. We can't predict a lot of things, right? Sure. So we cannot say, I'm not going to do this because I'm not sure it's going to go well. Not doing it is also a risk. So there is no form of, we don't stay away from individuals or say there's anything that is risk-free, or we don't know. But actually we set up ways to manage those risks if it's within our risk tolerance, right? Now, what would decide or determine if you would go into a venture or not is by identifying the probability of that risk occurring, identifying the impact it's going to have on you, and measuring it if it's within your tolerance level. So what I mean by that is, if you recently start learning how to drive, right? You know that at that point where you're learning how to drive, there's tendency that if you drive on the highway, you will most likely hit someone, or someone will most likely hit you.
As a learner.
As a learner, of course. So the probability at that point that you will hit someone is higher as a learner in a highway than the probability of successfully not hitting someone. So when you're weighing that risk to make a decision if you should drive outside on the highway as a learner or not, you weigh, what's the probability that I will hit someone? It's higher than the probability of not hitting someone. What's the impact of hitting someone? The impact is that I'm going to lose my car, because there will be damage.
True.
I may have an accident, an injury in my body. There's another damage. So I'll pay for the car. I'll pay for my body. And if I'm at fault, I will repair the other person's car. So those are the impacts. So when you weigh the probability, weigh the impact, you ask yourself, is it something I can tolerate? Which is it within my risk tolerance? If you can bear the cost and you're ready to foot it, then you now accept it and move on to drive. But if it's not within your tolerance level, then you can decide to say, no, I don't want to go to the highway today. Let me just stay in my field. So it means that we don't stay away because of there's presence of risk, but rather we identify the risk, check the probability, check the impact, weigh it with our risk tolerance, and then we now make a decision. And there are different levels of risk tolerance. There are people who have high risk appetite. They call them risk seekers. Those are the guys that love doing MMA. They love doing crypto. You know, those are good business, but they have high risk. They are very volatile.
High.
Drop 20,000 naira today and tomorrow you get, or within 24 hours, I mean,
oh, no.
So those guys their risk appetite is high.
Yes.
So they venture into lots of risk because of the benefits or the outcome, the uncertainty of the outcome, because they are uncertain. And then there are people who are risk averse. Those people are people who don't want to hear anything risk. They rather keep their money in the bank. Let it be deducting by charges rather than getting any addition. They don't like any form of endeavor that will have any form of uncertainty. And there are people who are risk neutral. Those guys are balanced. Those people are saying, I'm not going to take too much, but I can also lay the balance. So it depends on where you fall. Okay. You weigh it with the impact of that risk in that project, in that investment you want to take or anything, and then make a decision if you should go ahead or if you should just shut down. Okay. So that's it.
Interesting. I love the way you break it down so everybody can totally understand. So my next question now is risk management. Now, is this only for project managers, or who can get involved?
The first question we should even ask is, who is even a project manager? Because sometimes when we hear the word project manager, what comes to mind is an engineer in the construction site. Someone who is trying to lay and manage and tell people to construct a road. They just say, oh, that guy is a project manager. Or you think he's an IT guy who is trying to work on, those project managers exist everywhere.
In every field.
Everywhere. What is a project manager? Someone who handles a project. What is a project? A project is a temporary endeavor. In other words, something you do within a short time with an expected result. Anything you do within a start date and a finish date with an expected result is a project. This session we're having is a project because we had the time we started and we'll have the time we're finishing.
And we'll also finish.
So that tells you that we handling this session and you driving this, you're just the project manager because you're handling this project, which is a conversation, a session with us to educate the audience. That's a project. Okay. So now you know that you're a project manager. So it's not even far-fetched. It's everybody. So in an organization, everyone is bearing the responsibility to handle risk. It's not left for people who are, okay, he's the project manager in my company, he's the person. No, it's the responsibility of everyone to manage risk. So we're all responsible for successful risk management.
Okay, so in managing every risk, what are those steps to take to ensure?
Okay, in a real-time scenario now, say you want to manage risk. Because, of course, I started out by saying that risk or cause is within your tolerance, and if the impact is high, there are steps to take to manage it. Yes. So now let's say there's a risk occurring. What are the steps you want to take? Number one is you want to identify the risk. You can't manage what you don't know. You only manage what you know. So if we can manage what we know, it means that the first thing we must do is to identify and know them. So the first thing we do if you want to take steps to managing risk is identifying those risks. So in an investment, whatever you want to do, this project you're handling now, whatever it is, start by identifying what are the possible uncertainties that exist within this project. What are the uncertainties that exist within this investment? What are the uncertainties that exist within this endeavor that I'm trying to work on, or this project that I'm working on? And then when you identify those uncertainties, the next thing you want to do is to what? Is to plan a risk response. Is to respond to it. We don't react, we respond. The reason why we call it respond is that we identify it first and then we respond. So how do you respond? That's when you now plan, okay, if it's within, you check the probability, check the impact. If it's within your tolerance level, you accept it. Accepting is saying, I think I can move on with this, so I accept the risk and I move on to do this investment. That's a form of, response you can take. Right? So you plan a response. You can choose to mitigate the risk, which is reducing the impact and say, okay, Probably I get a professional driver beside me when I'm going to drive as a learner to reduce the impact, so that he would be the one to guide me while I'm driving on the highway.
So you don't have that accident.
Yes. So this is you reducing the impact of having the accident. That's another response. So you can either accept it and move on to drive. You can mitigate by getting a professional driver beside you to guide you. That's you reducing the impact. You can choose to transfer and say, I'm not going to drive. Oh, please let the excellent. Let the driver come and drive me.
That's my option. That's my
option. so you're transferring because you're risk averse. You don't like risk. Yeah. So that's also another strategy to manage risk, right? Which is transfer. And then you can choose to avoid, which is saying, I don't want to go out at all. I don't even want to have a car. Let me just take public transport and have peace. You know, this is you avoiding it totally. But, you know, avoiding it is not the best way, because it means you've deprived yourself having car because of your risk level of tolerance. So these are various strategies you can plan, and then you implement the plan and check the effectiveness of those plans. And then you're good.
Just because we are running out of time. So in a nutshell, let's wrap everything up. One advice for those who want to go into managing risks. What advice would you share with them?
Okay, first off, I want you to first of all understand that everybody has risk around. So it is everybody, not just those. It's for everybody. Everybody must learn how to identify and manage risk, because there are lots of risk around you. There are lots of uncertainties around you. And then you must learn. If not, you get taken over, where the impact hits you and you start crying. So it's going, this is my advice to everyone, because you should. So it begins with gaining the right knowledge. Gaining the right knowledge, right? When you get the right knowledge, you now implement, of course, doing what you know. So getting the right knowledge is go for trainings, go for seminars, go for sessions that would give you the right insight on how to professionally identify risk. Do you know that when we draw up budgets, some people used to write miscellaneous, and they just put it there as in case of incasity. They don't even know how. They just say 10%, 20%. There are professional ways to allocate those things. Those things are meant for risk. How do you know them if you've not learned? Attending training. So I recommend for people who are looking at, venturing into that, you can consider taking the project management certification. Or if you are a beginner, you can do the CAPM, where you would learn professionally how to allocate funds for risk. There's no miscellaneous that people just do roughly. There are professional ways you learn. You follow it step by step, and then you'll be able to learn how to identify risk, plan for risk, manage them, reserve funds for risk, and mitigate the impacts. And there, you will be safe, the project will be safe, and together we'll make a better world. It's a must for everybody, because at one point, not even at one point, every day in our life, we are solving one problem or the other. So we really need to learn. Excellent. Josiah Fidelis, it's always a pleasure having you here on Certification Insights. Thank you. We can't wait to have you again. I hope the next time you're coming with a gift for me. Oh, I will. Vice versa. Yeah, let's say that. It's uncertain, but don't worry, I will. And that's all we can take today on the show. Hope you learned a thing or two about the role of a project manager in managing risks. Till same time again, please do not forget to interact with this post. Leave comments for us. You can see our handles scrolling just at the bottom of the screen, so we can get to meet you. We'll ask you a thing or two and, just have these conversations. My name remains Bamidele Vivian Osagie. It's been Certification Insights. Until next time, be kind to one another. It's not going to cost you anything. Take care. The PMP certification is the world's #1 project management certification in the world.
PMP certification tells the world that you are great at meeting deadlines, maximizing available resources, and managing risks.
The PMP certification stands you out of the crowd and provides external validation of your project management skills and experience at a global level.
PMP certification does not only open local doors, it also opens global doors.
So what are you waiting for? Earn a PMP certification today and separate yourself from the crowd. Register for our next class now and enjoy massive discounts.
Certification Edge, building cross-border capabilities. Certification Edge, building cross-border capabilities.